Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today I want to think a little bit out loud about a topic that I stumbled across, or, well, a discussion or presentation I stumbled across rather recently, and it was the question of intrinsic value of human life, or intrinsic values versus extrinsic. And I find it, and maybe it's because I'm a German, I find it very confusing, these terms in English, when I think about them. So let me tell you my thoughts about it. So there are many people who say that there is no intrinsic value of human life. Everything is extrinsic. That means it is attributed to you by other people based on your skills. Example, you can write software code very well, and in a society where this is a useful skill, many people want software solutions, so they pay you for your coding services. And that means this value that you have then, or the skill you have, is attributed to you by society, by someone who's willing to pay for it, and then you are valuable in that sense, or you have beauty, or I don't know, something, right? Some talent. Sometimes you were born with that. Sometimes you worked hard for it and trained a lot, but it is ultimately priced by the society in which you live, by the market, or something, or you're attractive, you're charming, you're beautiful, and then you get a girlfriend. So that's why your life or your person has some value in that sense in the eyes of a prospective mate. But this is where it gets confusing for me, because you can interpret these terms in many ways. I think, yes, you can look up the definitions, but intrinsic could mean that you were born with it. That is like part of your DNA, of your character. Some character traits also are dependent on your genes. It's not only upbringing and environment. A lot of things depend on your genes. So you could interpret intrinsic as something you were born with, rather than, or as opposed to something that you had to work hard for or towards. Something that you had to train for or study, and then you have that skill or value. All right. And then, of course, there are these people who say there is no intrinsic value to human life. Atheists, for example, they say everything is extrinsic. There is no intrinsic value of human life. Well, yes and no. So I strongly disagree with that. It's just that the word intrinsic is very confusing, in my opinion. I think that what we understand by intrinsic value of human life, that every man or woman, despite of their wrongdoings or their shortcomings, or despite of their abilities or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're born, they have a pulse, they're human. So that is why we have to treat them with a minimum of respect, and the laws protect them, etc. And now with the last statement, I think I gave it away with what I think about that. It doesn't mean that this is something you find in the human body. It's not something you can cut out with a scalpel. It's well, when these atheist types say there is no intrinsic value, it really reminds me of a Russian cosmonaut who is in orbit around Earth and who says, "Where is this God that you told us about?" Yeah, no one ever said that God orbits around the Earth and flies up there. Yeah. Anyway, what I want to say is that what is referred to as intrinsic value is the most extrinsic thing that you can imagine. Why? Well, because it is completely dependent on the society in which you live. If that's intrinsic value of human life is a belief, it is a conviction, it is a consensus of society. They believe to attribute that basic value to any human being, no questions asked. And that is something like basic income, maybe, like a moral version or a legal version of basic income, just with not with money, but with protection, and with the basic rights and protection by the law. And one example, when you really notice when it isn't there anymore, it's one of these things that you notice when it's not there anymore, like air. Most of the time we don't notice the air around us, but when it's gone, we notice it's gone, right? And in the Middle Ages, the emperor could do something to a perpetrator or someone he didn't like, and that is Reichsacht und Bann. And that means that the law no longer protects you. That means everybody can do anything they want with you or your property. And there are no repercussions for them then. That means you are vogelfrei, free as a bird. Sounds romantic, but it isn't. It means anybody, and I think it was even a crime to give you shelter, or I don't know. But anyway, if they harmed you or stole from you, there was no punishment. That it was that. And that means this belief, this consensus that your life should have intrinsic value was taken away from individual people. And that had horrible and very clear and very real consequences for their lives. All right. So that is basically what I think about that. I think intrinsic value of human life is very real, but it is not something you can touch or find with some scientific instrument or with some kind of a test or something. It's not an ability. It is a consensus. It is a belief of society. So it depends on where you live. I always try, when I'm confronted with some of these abstract terms or one of these questions, I always try to imagine, would that still work on a desert island? Like if you imagine a marooned sailor, Robinson Crusoe or something like that, and computer coding. Does that still help you when you're on a desert island without electricity? It probably doesn't help you, no. But survival skills, basic survival skills, yes. Physical fitness, yes. The ability to overcome some hardship, yes. These are skills that will definitely help you there on the desert island. So it is independent of the society around you that prices your abilities or the usefulness of your existence or your service, your potential service sometimes maybe, to them. There are certain skills that help you in many situations, no matter who is around you. It is something that is just, that would be another interpretation of these intrinsic versus extrinsic. Anyway, so these were my thoughts, and now we can enjoy the view for a bit over the nuclear power plant Grafenrheinfeld. And I think, no, this one is no longer active. You can probably tell by the absence of the condensation clouds from the cooling towers. Yeah, we are near Schweinfurt, and this down here is the Free Imperial village of Gochsheim. There's a nice little hill here. And the birds are hunting, and the nuclear power plant is not producing any electricity anymore. Yeah, so let me know what you think about that. This is just something I thought about in recent or weeks. I should say weeks, yeah. And this is at least my take on this whole issue of intrinsic human value versus extrinsic value. And also, if you think about it, these moral values that we hold, the word value, or in German Wert, also same thing. Wert. There is the value of a good in the supermarket, for example, the value of a loaf of bread, which you can understand this by the price. It's not the same thing, but der Wert eines Guts. So it's the same word, the same meaning, really, in German and English. But there is also the moral value, and that's same in German. Ein Wert. Unsere Werte in Europa, our values in Europe. And if you think about it, they can be translated. Economists really like that. They like to translate everything into euros and dollars. But I think in this situation, you can really do this. You, for example, say, like the European Union or many European countries, they say, oh, our European democratic values. And this is why we have to support Ukraine, for example. It's a current example. But this can be translated into euros and dollars rather conveniently by just looking at how the prices and the cost that we have the burden of cost, the increase of the price of gas and oil and electricity that comes with it. This is just because we want to hold on to these so-called values, and that costs us. And that is then, once again, it's also a value in terms of euros and dollars. Yeah, it has a price tag, kind of. Yeah, so that's also something that I thought about recently. These moral values, yeah, in many situations, they can really be directly translated into just economic value or a price, price tag. It can be attached to it. Anyway, Servus, Kameraden.